Never throw away banana peels after eating them. You may be throwing away one of the oldest, most powerful secrets that professional tomato and pepper growers have used for generations. Today I'm going to show you exactly how an old gardener's trick turns simple kitchen waste into a nutrient bomb that can double the size of your harvest. And I'm going to show you 4 different ways to use it. So stay until the end, because the last method is the one most people have never even heard of. Let's start with why banana peels work so well in the first place. A banana peel is not just leftover trash, it's actually a concentrated storehouse of potassium, along with smaller amounts of phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and nitrogen. Potassium is the exact nutrient that tomato and pepper plants crave the most once they start flowering, because potassium is what controls water movement inside the plant, strengthens the stems, and directly determines how many flowers turn into fruit instead of falling off. Most store-bought fertilizers only give you a small percentage of usable potassium, but banana peels give it to you in a completely organic, slow-release form that your soil's microorganisms can break down naturally. This is the same secret that old-time gardeners passed down before synthetic fertilizers ever existed, and it still works better than most of what you'll find on a shelf today. Now let's get into the first and most classic method, the banana peel tea. Take 2 to 3 ripe banana peels, and this is important. Cut them into very small pieces. The secret lies here. Cut the banana peels into very small pieces. The secret lies here. Cut the banana peels into very small pieces. Cutting them small is not optional. It's the entire key to this method, because smaller pieces mean more surface area, and more surface area means the potassium and minerals release into the water up to 3 times faster than if you left the peels whole. If you skip this step, you'll be waiting weeks for the same result you could get in a matter of hours. Once your peels are finely chopped, place them into a large glass jar. Glass is important here because plastic can sometimes react with the natural acids in the peel over time, and you want nothing interfering with the purity of this solution. Add about 1 liter of clean, room temperature water. Tap water is fine, but if your tap water is heavily chlorinated, let it sit out for a few hours first so the chlorine can evaporate, because chlorine can slow down the beneficial microbial activity you're trying to encourage. Now let nature do its work. Let this mixture soak for at least 24 hours, but for tomatoes and peppers specifically, a full 48 hours gives you an even stronger concentration of potassium. You'll know it's ready when the water turns a light golden brown and you can smell a faint, slightly sweet, earthy aroma coming from the jar. That color change is your visual signal that the minerals have fully transferred from the solid peel into the liquid. After soaking, this next step is extremely important, so don't rush it. Use a fine mesh strainer or a clean cloth to completely remove every last piece of solid banana peel from the liquid. This matters for 2 reasons. First, any leftover organic solids sitting in your soil can attract fruit flies, gnats, or even mold, especially in warm and humid conditions. Second, solid pieces left in the soil decompose unevenly, which means your plant gets a slow, unpredictable release of nutrients instead of the immediate, direct absorption you want. Straining it completely gives you a pure liquid fertilizer that the roots can drink in right away. Before you apply this liquid, walk over to your tomato or pepper plant and gently loosen the top 1 to 2 inches of soil around the base, using a small hand rake or even just your fingers. This step is often skipped, but it makes a massive difference. Loosening the surface breaks up the hardened crust that forms from repeated watering, allows oxygen to circulate down to the root zone, and most importantly, stops your nutrient solution from just running off the surface instead of soaking down to where the roots actually are. Now pour your strained banana peel tea slowly and directly onto the loosened soil, all the way around the base of the plant, not just on one side. Apply this once every 7 to 10 days. Do not overdo it, because too much potassium too quickly can actually throw off the nutrient balance in your soil and lead to weaker growth instead of stronger growth. Once a week, consistently, is the sweet spot. Here's what happens next, and this is where the magic really shows itself. Within 10 to 14 days of consistent application, you'll start to notice the stems thickening and the leaves taking on a deeper, richer green color. By day 15 to 20, flower clusters that were sparse or falling off before will start forming in much greater numbers. And by day 25 to 30, those flowers begin setting fruit at a rate that will genuinely surprise you, especially compared to plants that received no potassium boost at all. But that's just the first method. Let's move on to the second one, the dried banana peel powder, which is perfect for gardeners who want a fertilizer that lasts for months instead of days. Take your banana peels, and instead of using them fresh, lay them out flat on a tray, either in direct sunlight for 3 to 4 days or in a low oven at around 100 degrees Fahrenheit for a few hours until they become completely dry and brittle. Once they're fully dried, break them apart by hand and grind them into a fine powder using a blender, a coffee grinder, or even a mortar and pestle. What you end up with is a concentrated, shelf-stable powder that holds onto its potassium content for months without spoiling, unlike the liquid method, which needs to be used fresh. To use this powder, sprinkle about 1 to 2 tablespoons directly into the soil around the base of your tomato or pepper plant, then gently work it into the top layer of soil with a small trowel. Water it in immediately afterward so the powder begins to slowly release its nutrients as it breaks down. This method is slower acting than the liquid tea, but it releases nutrients over a much longer period, which makes it perfect to apply once a month rather than once a week. Many old-time gardeners actually preferred this method because you could prepare a large batch of banana peel powder at the start of the season and have enough fertilizer to last you all the way through harvest without constantly making fresh batches. Now here comes the third method, and this one is specifically designed for one of the most common and heartbreaking problems tomato and pepper growers face: blossom end rot. If you've ever grown tomatoes and watched the bottom of the fruit turn dark, sunken, and leathery just as it was starting to ripen, that's blossom end rot, and it's almost always caused by a calcium deficiency combined with inconsistent watering. This is where we combine banana peels with something else most people also throw away: eggshells. Save your eggshells and let them air dry for a day or two until they're brittle. Once dry, crush them into small pieces, similar to how you cut your banana peels. Then, take equal parts chopped banana peel and crushed eggshell, place them together in your glass jar, and add water just like before, about 1 liter for every 2 to 3 peels and their matching eggshells. Let this mixture soak for a full 3 days this time, instead of just 1, because eggshells release their calcium much more slowly than banana peels release potassium, and you need the extra time for that calcium to properly leach into the water. After 3 days, strain this mixture with the same care as before, removing every bit of solid material, and apply it to the soil the exact same way, loosening the top layer first, then pouring the strained liquid evenly around the base. This combination gives your plant both the potassium it needs for strong flowering and fruiting, and the calcium it needs to build strong, healthy cell walls in the developing fruit, which is exactly what prevents blossom end rot from happening in the first place. Use this calcium and potassium combination once every 2 weeks throughout the fruiting stage, and you'll notice your tomatoes and peppers developing evenly, without those dark, sunken spots that ruin so many home harvests. Now let's talk about the fourth method, the one most people have genuinely never tried, and it happens at planting time rather than during the growing season. This is the direct burial method, and old gardeners swear by it as the single most effective way to give a young tomato or pepper transplant the strongest possible start. When you're transplanting a young tomato or pepper seedling into the ground or into a larger pot, dig your planting hole slightly deeper than you normally would. Take 1 whole banana peel, no need to chop it this time, and lay it flat on the bottom of the hole. Cover it with a thin layer of soil, about 1 inch, so that the roots of your seedling won't come into direct contact with the peel right away. Then place your seedling on top of that soil layer and finish filling in the hole as you normally would. Here's why this works so well. As the banana peel slowly decomposes underground over the following weeks, it releases its potassium and other minerals directly into the root zone exactly as the plant's root system is expanding and searching for nutrients. It's essentially a slow-release, built-in fertilizer that feeds the plant from below for the first month or two of its life, right when it needs the most support to establish itself. Gardeners who use this method consistently report noticeably stronger stem growth and earlier flowering compared to seedlings planted without this step. Before we move on, let's talk for a moment about why old gardeners specifically chose tomatoes and peppers to use this trick on. Because it's not random. Tomatoes and peppers are both what's known as heavy fruiting plants, meaning they put enormous energy into producing large amounts of fruit in a relatively short window of time. That process demands far more potassium than leafy vegetables like lettuce or spinach ever need, because potassium is directly responsible for regulating the tiny pores on the plant's leaves called stomata, which control water loss and photosynthesis efficiency. When potassium levels are low, a tomato or pepper plant will often show it through weak stems, curling leaf edges, and fruit that ripens unevenly or stays smaller than it should. Feeding these specific plants banana peels isn't a random old wives' tale. It's addressing the exact nutritional gap that tomatoes and peppers are most likely to suffer from during their fruiting stage. Let's also talk about a bonus trick, a banana peel foliar spray, which works differently from everything we've covered so far because instead of feeding the roots, it feeds the plant through its leaves. Blend one whole banana peel with about 2 cups of water until you get a smooth, thin liquid. Strain this mixture thoroughly through a fine cloth, because any pulp left behind will clog a spray bottle almost immediately. Pour the strained liquid into a clean spray bottle and lightly mist the leaves of your tomato or pepper plant early in the morning, before the sun gets too strong, ideally once every 2 weeks. Leaves can actually absorb potassium and trace minerals directly through their surface, and this method gives your plant a quick supplemental boost, especially useful during periods of heavy flowering or fruiting when the plant's nutrient demand is at its highest. Just be sure to only spray the leaves, not the flowers themselves, since a wet flower is more prone to dropping off before it has a chance to set fruit. One more variation worth mentioning is combining banana peels with used coffee grounds, but only for pepper plants, since peppers respond especially well to the small nitrogen boost that coffee grounds provide alongside potassium. If you want to try this, dry your used coffee grounds first. Mix 1 tablespoon of dried grounds with your chopped banana peels before soaking, and follow the exact same 24 to 48 hour soak, strain, and apply process described earlier. The nitrogen from the coffee grounds supports leafy green growth early on, while the potassium from the banana peel takes over to support flowering and fruiting once the plant matures, giving pepper plants a more balanced nutrient profile across their entire growth cycle. This combination is not necessary for tomatoes, since tomatoes are more sensitive to excess nitrogen once they begin fruiting, and too much nitrogen at that stage can actually cause a tomato plant to produce lush green leaves at the expense of the fruit itself. Now let's talk about timing, because when you use these methods matters just as much as how you use them. In the early growth stage, right after transplanting, the direct burial method gives your plant the strongest foundation. Once your plant starts developing its first flower buds, switch to the liquid banana peel tea once a week to support strong, consistent flowering. Once fruit starts to form, bring in the banana peel and eggshell combination every 2 weeks to prevent calcium deficiencies and support healthy fruit development. And throughout the entire fruiting period, the foliar spray can be used as a supplemental boost whenever your plants look like they need an extra push. Let's also cover a few mistakes that can turn this from a powerful natural fertilizer into a problem in your garden, because doing this wrong can genuinely hurt your plants instead of helping them. First, never use banana peels from bananas that were treated with pesticide sprays close to the peel without first washing them thoroughly, because those chemical residues can transfer into your fertilizer. Second, never skip the straining step, no matter which liquid method you're using, because undissolved organic material left in warm, moist soil is the perfect breeding ground for mold, fungus gnats, and unwanted bacteria that can actually harm your root system instead of helping it. Third, never apply any of these fertilizers to bone-dry soil. Always water your plant normally first, and then apply the banana peel solution afterward, because pouring concentrated nutrients onto parched soil can shock the root system rather than nourish it. And finally, resist the urge to use these methods every single day, thinking that more is better. Over-fertilizing with potassium can actually block your plant's ability to absorb other essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium, which ironically can cause the exact blossom end rot problem you're trying to prevent in the first place. Consistency and moderation are what make this method work, not overuse. Let's answer a few common questions gardeners ask about this method, because I get asked these same things over and over again in the comments. Can you use this method on potted plants or only in the ground? Yes, absolutely. Potted tomatoes and peppers benefit from this method just as much, if not more, than plants in open soil, since container soil tends to lose its nutrients faster through repeated watering and drainage. Just be a little more conservative with the amount of liquid you apply to a pot, since there's less soil volume to buffer against over-fertilizing, and always make sure your pot has good drainage before applying any liquid fertilizer. If you follow the straining step properly and always bury or work the peel into the soil rather than leaving pieces exposed on the surface, the risk is very low. Exposed banana peel, sitting openly on top of the soil, is what tends to attract fruit flies and other pests, so the key is always making sure any solid material is either fully buried or fully strained out before use. Can this method replace regular fertilizer completely? For most home gardeners growing tomatoes and peppers, this system covers the major nutrients those specific plants need most during flowering and fruiting, but it's not a complete substitute for a well-balanced soil rich in organic matter. Think of banana peels as a powerful free supplement that works alongside good compost and healthy soil, not as a total replacement for building good soil health from the ground up. How long can I store the dried banana peel powder? Stored in an airtight container in a cool, dry place, the dried powder can last for several months without losing much of its potency, which makes it easy to prepare a large batch at the start of the season and use it gradually as your plants need it. So let's recap everything we've covered today, because this old gardener's secret really does come down to 4 simple, natural techniques working together throughout the life of your plant. The banana peel tea gives your plant a fast-acting potassium boost once a week during flowering. The dried banana peel powder gives you a slow, long-lasting feed you can apply once a month. The banana peel and eggshell combination protects your fruit from blossom end rot by delivering both potassium and calcium together. And the direct burial method at transplanting time gives your seedling the strongest possible foundation from the very beginning. Add in the foliar spray as a bonus boost whenever your plants need a little extra help, and you now have a complete, entirely natural fertilizing system built from nothing but kitchen scraps most people throw straight into the trash. Here's what you can expect if you follow this system consistently, from the moment you transplant your seedlings all the way through the fruiting season. In the first 2 weeks, you'll notice your seedlings establishing faster, with thicker stems and a deeper green color than plants grown without this treatment. Between weeks 3 and 4, once flowering begins, you'll see noticeably more flower clusters forming, and fewer of them dropping off before they have a chance to develop into fruit. By week 5 to 6, your fruit will be forming evenly, without the dark sunken spots that ruin so many homegrown tomatoes, and your peppers will be developing thicker, glossier walls. And by the time you reach full harvest, many gardeners who've used this exact system report noticeably larger yields, sweeter tomatoes, and peppers with a more vibrant, deep color than anything they've grown using synthetic fertilizer alone. I want to share something a lot of gardeners tell me after trying this system for the first time, because it's almost always the same story. They start out skeptical, thinking a piece of kitchen trash couldn't possibly make a real difference to something as fussy as a tomato plant. Then a few weeks in, they notice their plant looks noticeably darker green and sturdier than the one growing right next to it that isn't getting the same treatment. By the time flowering starts, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. More blossoms, fewer of them dropping off, and fruit that seems to set faster and grow rounder than in previous seasons. That moment is usually when people become believers for life, and once you see it happen in your own backyard, you'll understand exactly why this trick has survived and been passed down for so many generations, long before anyone ever had a name for potassium or knew the chemistry behind why it worked. It's also worth remembering that healthy soil is a living thing, full of bacteria, fungi, and microorganisms that break down organic matter and make nutrients available to plant roots. Every time you add banana peels, whether as a liquid, a powder, or buried whole in the ground, you're not just feeding your tomato or pepper plant directly, you're also feeding that underground ecosystem of microorganisms that keeps your soil alive and productive season after season. Synthetic fertilizers can green up a plant quickly, but they don't nourish that living soil web the same way organic matter does, which is part of why so many experienced growers eventually shift back toward natural, compost-based methods like this one after years of using bagged chemical fertilizer. This is the kind of knowledge that used to get passed down from grandparent to grandchild, from one generation of gardeners to the next, long before garden centers were selling bags of chemical fertilizer on every shelf. It costs you nothing. It uses waste you were already throwing away, and it works with your soil's natural biology instead of against it. So the next time you finish eating a banana, stop for a second before you throw that peel in the trash. Chop it up for a quick liquid tea, dry it into a powder for long-term feeding, pair it with eggshells to protect against blossom end rot, bury it under a new transplant to give it the strongest possible start, or blend it into a foliar spray for a quick boost when your plants need it most. Your tomatoes and peppers will thank you with bigger, healthier, sweeter fruit all season long. Try this system on your own garden this season and watch the difference for yourself. If this old gardener's secret helped you, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next tip. And drop a comment below letting me know which method you're going to try first. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.